Overwatch 2 and Paladins are both 5v5 hero shooters, but which is better for you? With the recent release of Overwatch 2, players have once again begun comparing the game with Paladins. As a player of both games, I thought it would be a good idea to make this video to give you all the direct comparisons between the two games. This video will be split into 5 main sections: basic gameplay, monetization/player progression, future updates, quirks/nitpicks, and advanced gameplay. For the record, I have over 1,300 hours in Overwatch and over 1,800 hours in Paladins. I've tried my best to make this video as devoid of opinion as possible. My goal isn't to tell you which game is better, it's for you to decide yourself. Let's begin with basic gameplay, starting with the classes of characters you can play as. Currently in Overwatch, there's 35 heroes across 3 classes: tank, damage, and support. In Paladins, there are currently 57 champions across 4 classes: frontlines, damage, flank, and support. In Overwatch, the damage class, as the name implies, primarily focuses on dealing damage and getting kills with a variety of playstyles. You have flankers like Tracer and Genji, who offer high mobility but are frail, snipers like Hanzo and Widowmaker, who specialize in single high damage shots at the cost of slow fire rates and lack of defenses, mid-rangers like Soldier 76, Cassidy, and Ashe, who are general comfy picks, and specialists like Mei, Sombra, and Symmetra, who have added utility on top of their damage capabilities. Contrast this with Paladins, where the roles set by the flank and damage class are more streamlined. Both roles specialize in dealing damage and getting kills, but the main playstyle varies between class. In general, the damage class in Paladins consists of your mid to long range fighters. These characters have access to high amounts of reliable damage, but this typically comes at the cost of self-defense, making it difficult for this class to take on close-range endeavors. On the other side of the coin is the flank class, which is all about close-range battles. Generally, the flank class has lower health and trickier weapons to use when compared to the damage class, but this is offset by their great mobility and/or survival skills. In both games, you're going to notice that the majority of playable characters lie in these roles. Of Overwatch's 35 heroes, 16 of them belong to the damage class, whereas of Paladin's 57 champions, 32 of them are in the damage/flank class. The second role to compare is the support role. The main purpose of this role in both games is to provide your teammates with healing to keep them in the fight for longer. This is where you'll notice the most drastic difference between supports in both games. In Paladins, most supports' healing is tied to an ability with a cooldown, whereas in Overwatch, most supports' primary healing is tied to their weapon, with the only cooldown being a reload or a recharge. In general, Overwatch supports can heal a target for a long period of time, while in Paladins, there's going to be some downtime in between heals. On top of providing healing, some supports are capable of providing utility as well. Currently in Overwatch, the support roster can provide damage boosts, make allies invulnerable for a short time, boost movement speed, and offer light crowd control in the form of knockbacks and one singular stun. In Paladins, the utility supports provides comes in the form of speed boosts, cooldown reductions, damage reduction, bonus ultimate charge, and a variety of crowd control ranging from slows to full-on stuns. Currently in Overwatch, there are 8 supports to choose from, while in Paladins, there are 12 supports to choose from. Last of the roles to compare is Overwatch's tanks with Paladins' frontlines. Due to only having 1 tank per team, Overwatch tanks can look pretty bloated stats-wise. Overwatch tanks are a mix of divers and brawlers. Dive tanks like Winston or Wrecking Ball typically offer low team defenses, but make up for it with great disruption abilities. Contrast this with brawler tanks like Reinhardt or Zarya, who typically play around their team to protect them and aid in dealing damage. The main goal of all tanks in Overwatch 2 is to grab attention and take space for their team. To accommodate this playstyle, Overwatch tanks have massive health pools, have surprisingly decent weapons to contribute damage on their own, some have access to hard crowd control like stuns and knockbacks, and others have defensive/survival abilities to benefit themselves or their team. Now to contrast with Paladins, frontlines, also referred to as tanks by the community, are split into 2 subcategories: point tanks and off tanks. Point tanks use their incredible defensive abilities and high health pools to establish a presence on the point. To compensate for their strong defenses, the point tanks typically host the weakest weapons in the game. Off-tanks, on the other hand, specialize in creating space through a variety of playstyles. We have bully tanks like Rom and Yagoroth, who excel in taking 1v1 fights against lower health enemies, brawlers like Khan and Azan, who excel in grabbing the enemy's attention with the use of their weapons and defensive skills, and displacers like Atlas and Makoa, who create chaos for the enemies with the use of their crowd control skills. Unfortunately, the disparity between point tanks and off tanks is quite intense in Paladins. With only 3 viable point tank options, some could argue 5 with talents, there isn't much leniency in terms of who you play when it comes to defending a point. Most of the off tanks in Paladins don't have enough defensives to keep them alive when defending a point. Currently, Overwatch 2 has 8 tank heroes, soon to be 9, while Paladins has 13 frontlines. Before we wrap up the classes, I wanted to bring up a perk of each class that's unique to Overwatch: role passives. Each role in Overwatch receives its own unique passive regardless of hero played in that role. For tanks, they will generate less ult charge for enemies damaging them or allies healing them, and they are resistant to knockback skills. Damaged heroes gain a reload and movement speed increase for a short time after earning an assist, while supports will regen their health after 1.5 seconds of not taking damage. You might recall that I mentioned that Overwatch teams will only consist of 1 tank. Well, that leads us into the next area of comparison: team compositions. When booting up for a game of unranked Overwatch, the first queue you will notice is role lock. Before being placed into the queue, you will have to select which role you want to play as. Upon entering a match, you will be queued as either tank, damage, or support, and your hero selection will be limited to that role. All teams in role lock will consist of 1 tank, 2 damage dealers, and 2 supports. There are a plethora of game modes with an open queue, where you can pick whoever you want, but Overwatch 2 is balanced around role lock, and this is most often how you'll see the game played. Paladins does not have a role lock. You are free to play whichever champion you want regardless of class. You can end up with some very unique team comps this way, for better or for worse, because once you've locked in your champion choice in Paladins, there's no changing it. A stark contrast with Overwatch 2, where you could switch your hero within the class at any time. Though it's not official, most teams in ranked Paladins like to run 2 front lines, 1 flank, 1 damage, and 1 support. Next of the comparisons, we have basic game modes. In Paladins, there's 4 game modes across 3 queues. The first game mode is Siege, accessible via the Siege queue. In Siege, 2 teams will fight over the central capture zone. Once one team captures, they are tasked with escorting a payload to the enemy team's base. Teams gain a point for taking the capture zone, pushing the payload to the enemy's base, or conversely, stopping the enemy's payload from reaching your base. The first team to 4 points wins, and a team cannot win the game while on the defending side. The second game mode is Onslaught, accessible via the Onslaught queue. In Onslaught, the goal is to maintain control over the capture zone while slaughtering your enemies. Teams gain 1 point per second while controlling an objective, and gain 5 points upon an enemy's death. The first team to 400 points wins. The third game mode is King of the Hill, which is a variation of Onslaught and also accessible via the Onslaught queue. The gameplay of King of the Hill is nearly identical to that of Onslaught, with the only difference being that the capture point will move once every 90 seconds, and killing an enemy scores your team 3 points instead of 5. Again, first to 400 points wins. Last of the game modes is Team Deathmatch. The goal of this game mode is simple: the first team to reach 40 kills wins. In Overwatch 2, there's also 4 main queues via the unranked section. However, 3 of these function quite differently than Paladins. In Paladins, you queue for the specific game mode you want to play, while in Overwatch, you queue for how you want to play a select few game modes. There's the aforementioned role queue, where you're locked into a certain role while playing, open queue, where you're free to play any character regardless of role, and mystery heroes, where the game randomly selects a hero for you, and upon every death, you are respawned as a different hero. Amongst these 3 queues, you can find yourself playing from one of 4 game modes. These include Payload, where attackers are tasked with pushing their payload to the end of the map, while defenders try and halt their progress. Control, where teams fight over a capture zone. The first team to gain 100% progress on the zone will win the map. A team wins by getting the best 2 out of 3. Hybrid, where the attacking team first has to capture a control point, and then push a payload to the end of the map whilst defenders try and stop them. And Push, where both teams fight over a robot tug-of-war style. The team with more progress, or one that reaches the enemy's base first, wins. The last queue in the unranked section is free-for-all deathmatch. In this game mode, it's every player for themselves. The first of 8 players to reach 20 kills will win the match. But that's not it for game modes in Overwatch, as there's some additional ones accessible via the arcade tab or custom games. Assault, where the attacking team has to capture 2 control points whilst defenders try and stop them. Team Deathmatch, much like Paladins, 2 teams are put up against each other. The first team to 30 kills wins. Capture the Flag, where teams are tasked with stealing the other's flag and bringing it back to their base for a point. The first team to 3 points wins. And Elimination, where 2 teams fight each other in arena maps without respawns. A team wins the round once all enemies are dead. The first team to win 3 rounds wins the match. This game mode has the most variations to it, with versions based on 1v1, 3v3, and 5v5. Additionally, there's also the Lockout version, where when a round is concluded, the team who won will lose access to the heroes that they won with previously. On top of all these modes, there's also a couple of wacky queue types via the arcade. These queues use the standard unranked list of game modes. There's too many to talk about, so I'll just mention the craziest ones like No Limits, where you are no longer limited to just one of a certain hero per team, and Total Mayhem, where all heroes' health pools are doubled, and cooldowns are 75% shorter. The next topic of comparison is the UI/scoreboard. In both Overwatch and Paladins, you can see your character's health, cooldowns, ammo, and ultimate charge at all times on your screen. But that's where the similarities end. In Paladins, your ally's health and ultimate charge is always visible to you at the top left of your screen. Conversely, you can also see the enemy champions on the top right of your screen. For both teams, a special indicator will appear when a player is on a kill streak, as well as a timer when they're waiting to respawn. In Overwatch, you have to hit the tab button on PC to bring up the scoreboard. Here you can see your team's ultimate charge, as well as the stats of everyone in the match. You could use this at a glance to see who on your team is keeping up or falling behind, and alternatively, you could see which enemy is overperforming in terms of stats. There is a stat screen present in Paladins as well, but you only get to see this once the match is concluded. Despite being called the scoreboard, the one in Paladins functions quite differently than Overwatch. Just like in Overwatch, you can pull this up at any time, but in Paladins, the scoreboard shows you the talent, loadout, and item store choices of everyone in the match, as well as the current percentage of anti-healing. We'll talk about these aspects of Paladins again in the advanced gameplay section. Next up, we're going to talk about ranked/competitive in both games. In Paladins, the only game mode you will be playing in ranked is Siege. In Overwatch, the ranked queue shares the game modes with its unranked variant, that being Payload, Control, Hybrid, and Push. Before a ranked match begins in Paladins, you will have to wait through the pick and ban phase. This is where both teams can ban up to 3 champions for a total of 6, as well as lock their champion selection for the match. Once a champion is banned or picked, no one else in the match can play as them. Because of this, it is impossible to have mirror matches in Paladins ranked. In Overwatch, before a match begins, you will have to select which role to play if you opt in for role queue. Once in a match, it's free pickings within your role. Mirror matches are quite common in Overwatch ranked, especially at higher tiers of play. In Paladins, playing through the ranked variant of Siege is the exact same as its unranked variant. In Overwatch, playing through Control and Push is also the exact same as unranked. The differences lie in Hybrid and Payload. For these game modes, both teams will be required to attack and defend at least once, and whichever team makes more progress on the attacking side wins the match. Both games have seasons, with your rank being soft reset at the start of a new season. In Overwatch, seasons last 2 months. When a new season arrives, the map rotation will be changed and your rank will be soft reset. In Paladins, a rank season lasts the whole year. To accommodate the long seasons, Paladins has splits, which occur once every 3 to 4 months. Upon the arrival of a new split, the map rotation is changed, your rank is soft reset, and you will have to complete your placement matches once again. Speaking of, let's talk about placement matches. In Paladins, at the start of a split, you have to complete 5 placement matches for the system to determine your rank. while in Overwatch, you need to either win 7 matches or lose 20 matches to get your rank updated. In Overwatch, each individual role has a separate rank if you choose to play with role lock. In Paladins, your rank is tied to your overall skill on all roles. Both games feature 7 brackets of skill: Bronze, Silver, Gold, Platinum, Diamond, Masters, and Grandmasters. Additionally, both games have individual brackets for the lower ranks, for example, being Bronze 5 through 1. In Paladins, your Triumph points, or TP, will go up or down depending on if you won or lost a match. If you lose too many games while it's 0 TP, you may get demoted and ranked. Conversely, once you hit 100 TP, your rank will increase. Normally in Paladins, you're supposed to jump up one ranked bracket at a time, for example going from Silver 5 to 4. But if the system thinks you've been outperforming, you might find yourself jumping through quite a few brackets in a single shot. In Overwatch, you still lose or gain skill rating based on your match results, but your rank is only updated once every 7 wins or 20 losses. Both games offer rewards for playing ranked, which we will discuss in the player progression section soon. Before we get to that, I wanted to talk about seasonal events. Overwatch 2 has them, Paladins does not. Seasonal events in Overwatch 2 typically entail the game getting one or multiple new game modes to celebrate the special occasion with a slew of skins to accommodate. Currently, the Overwatch events are Summer Games, with the special game mode being Lucio Ball, where 2 teams of Lucio essentially play soccer and the team with the most goals wins. Next is Halloween Terror with 2 main modes. The first is Junkenstein's Revenge, in which 4 players are tasked with defending a castle against hordes of AI enemies and bosses. The second game mode introduced just recently was Wrath of the Bride, in which 4 players go from checkpoint to checkpoint while fighting hordes of AI enemies and certain boss enemies. Next is Winter Wonderland with 2 game modes. First is May Snowball Offensive, in which 2 teams of May have a snowball fight, Eliminator style. And Yeti Hunt, where a team of 5 Mays goes up against 1 Winston player with buff stats. The Mays have to kill the Winston to win, while Winston has to kill 5 Mays to win. Then there's the Lunar New Year event that brings a competitive variant of Capture the Flag. Archives, which dives into Overwatch's lore, with playable story missions in which 4 players fight AI enemies while progressing through a level. And then last up is the Anniversary event, which features competitive variants of the deathmatch modes. While Paladins doesn't have seasonal events or game modes, they do have a rotating stock of limited time modes that pop up on the weekends. These game modes range from being able to stack the same champion on a team, akin to No Limits in Overwatch, all champions having extreme knockbacks with the goal being to get environmental kills, X character versus Y character matches, and many more. Recently, some LTMs have had custom maps added to them to make for a more unique gameplay experience. Our next section is player progression / monetization. First, I want to talk about the different types of currency in both games and how they're earned. In Paladins, there's 3 currencies. Gold, which is earned via the daily login, completing a match, leveling up your account, watching in-game ads, leveling up your event pass, as well as by completing challenges. Next is crystals, which is the paid currency. However, you can also earn crystals via daily logins, watching in-game ads, completing event pass levels, and Trials of the Realm challenges. And last are bounty coins, which are earned from your daily quests, watching in-game ads, or by watching Paladins on Twitch. In Overwatch 2, there's 4 currencies. Tokens, which is the paid currency, but can also be earned sparsely by completing challenges. Legacy tokens from Overwatch 1, which you can no longer earn. Overwatch League tokens, which you could purchase or earn from watching the Overwatch League on either YouTube or Twitch. And competitive points, which you earn from winning competitive matches as well as when a season concludes. Now that we know about the currencies, let's see how we can spend them. Starting with new characters. In Paladins, a new account starts with only 7 champions. A new champion will cost you 60,000 gold, or 300 crystals. The crystal cost is about the equivalent of $6 US. Keep in mind that older champions do cost less. On top of using gold or crystals, you could purchase one of the varying packs that Paladins offers for unlocking new champions. The starter edition for $10 US unlocks 8 champions for you, 2 in each class, while the gold edition gives you 29 champions as well as 600 crystals for $30 US. Alternatively, you could purchase the Season Pass for $35, which instantly unlocks any of the new champions released in that year. You also get a mount and a skin exclusive to the pass, a unique recolor skin for the new champions released that year, which is exclusive to Season Pass owners, 1,500 crystals, and a 10% discount on any future crystal purchases within the year. If you're unsure of which champions to purchase, you should keep an eye out for the free champion rotation. Every week, 4 champions are placed in free rotation for players to try out, whether they own them or not. In Overwatch 2, a new account starts with 14 heroes. A further 20 heroes are unlocked by playing 150 matches. Any new heroes like Kiriko are only unlockable via the Battle Pass. If you pay for the Premium Pass with 1,000 Overwatch tokens, or the equivalent of $10, then you will unlock the new hero as your Tier 1 Premium reward. Otherwise, you're going to have to grind your Battle Pass out to level 55 to unlock the hero for free. Outside of new characters, the first place to spend money on in both games is skins. So, let's compare them. Despite having different titles, I'm going to refer to skins of both games with Overwatch's tier system. First, we have common skins. These are your basic recolor skins that usually release alongside a new character. In Paladins, these will cost you 60,000 gold or 300 crystals, the equivalent of $6, while in Overwatch these cost 300 tokens, the equivalent of roughly $3. Next we have epic skins, which are typically based off of the normal model of a character, but look different enough, either with unique textures, different hair, or adding something new like a hat or scarf. In Paladins, these cost 300 crystals, the equivalent of $6, while in Overwatch these cost 1,000 tokens, the equivalent of $10. Last of the direct comparisons, we have legendary skins. These skins offer a completely new model, and also feature a key difference between Overwatch's and Paladin's skins. In Overwatch, a legendary skin costs 1,900 tokens, or the equivalent of $19. These skins offer a unique player model and weapon. In Paladins, a legendary skin costs 800 crystals for direct purchase, the equivalent of $15. These skins will offer a unique player model and weapon, new visual and sound effects for that specific skin, and a unique voice pack for that skin. In Paladins, a legendary skin is essentially a new character with a new voice actor, while in Overwatch, only certain legendary skins receive new voice lines from their original VAs. Last of the skins, which is exclusive to Overwatch, are Mythics. These are obtainable as the final reward from the Premium Battle Pass. Like legendary skins, these skins offer a unique player model and weapon, but are customizable, with you being able to change the color scheme, the face mask, and the weapon. Future Mythic skins will function similarly to this Genji one, with multiple customization options. There are other ways to obtain skins in both games that function a little differently than normal. In Overwatch, there's the Overwatch League section of the store. Here you could buy a plethora of team-based skins varying in price from 150 OWL tokens to 300 OWL tokens. Keep in mind that you can earn this currency for free from watching the Overwatch League, but if you pay for the tokens, these skins will set you back around $9 for the basic team skins, and upwards of $18 for the legendary skins. In Paladins, there's the Bounty Store. The store has a rotating stock of skins, whose price changes based on if they're in demand or not. On top of being able to purchase these skins, you could also spend your bounty coins on boosters for either Battle Pass XP, Champion XP, or skin boosters. You can also sell your bounty skins and purchase other skins that might not be in rotation via the Bounty Marketplace website. Seeing as bounty coins are free currency, there are no real-world cost equivalents. The only cost here is your time. Granted, with some of these prices, especially on the website, it's gonna cost a lot of time. To wrap up skins, I wanted to quickly mention skin boosters, which are exclusive to Paladins. When activated, a skin booster allows you and your team to play with any skin, unlocked or locked, for that match. This is a great way to test drive a skin that you're debating on buying, or alternatively, you could play a match with a skin that's no longer obtainable. Now that we know about the basics of skins, let's talk Battle Passes, because every live service game needs to have one. An Overwatch Battle Pass costs 1,000 tokens, or the equivalent of $10 for the standard version, and includes a bunch of goodies. The most notable includes the new hero, 5 legendary skins, 4 epic skins, and the 1 mythic skin. The Battle Pass has 80 levels and contains other goodies like victory poses, sprays, banner frames, voice lines, and highlight intros. In Paladins, their version of the Battle Pass is called the Event Pass. This costs 400 crystals, or the equivalent of $8. The most notable prize in these event passes is 2 legendary skins, and a recolor of those skins. The event pass usually has 24 levels, and contains other goodies like static sprays, 3D sprays, gold, crystals, emotes, MVP poses, and sometimes a chest or 2. Occasionally, the Paladins event pass will be replaced with a crossover pass, in which the theme of the pass is based around a certain series or group. For example, the last crossover pass put the spotlight on the Ruby series, with skins of the 4 main characters from the show. These passes typically cost 750 crystals, or the equivalent of around $14. Now that we've gone over how to purchase skins, I wanted to talk about other aspects of customization. In both Paladins and Overwatch, you can equip emotes and victory poses for your characters. And that's where the similarities end. In Overwatch, you can equip voice lines to use whenever you're in a match.
It's about to get real.
As well as a highlight intro for when you get the play of the game after a match. Another exclusive customization feature for Overwatch are weapon charms. You can attach these tiny trinkets to your weapon to add your own little flair. Customization features exclusive to Paladins include the option to mix and match any skin with any weapon on a majority of characters. So if you like one skin, but want to use the weapons of another skin, you could do so with ease. This is not possible in Overwatch 2. The weapon is always tied to the skin. You could also get your hand on death stamps, which will leave a unique model on the floor when you kill an enemy. Death cards, which display a piece of art alongside a quote for your recent kill to rage at.
Fuck!
Mount skins to approach the battle in style. Music packs, which will change the music you hear in-game, most notably the menu music. And announcer packs, which change the voice of your announcer.
Point has spawned.
Capture point has spawned.
Charge! Rampage.
I don't know what Hexakill means!
All of these goodies are able to be direct purchased with crystals, although some might want to try their luck with some gambling. That's right, exclusive to Paladins are Lootboxes, otherwise known as chests. These vary in crystal price and feature a variety of skins, emotes, MVP poses, and mounts. There is a rotating stock of chests, but the staples are the gold and diamond chest. The gold chest costs 75 crystals, or the equivalent of about $2, and features low-tier skins and goodies, while the diamond chest, which costs 300 crystals, or the equivalent of around $6, features more sought-out items. Some players want a good incentive to play ranked. As mentioned earlier, Paladins and Overwatch both have ranked rewards. In Paladins, you can earn a free gold chest for completing your placements every split, as well as a player icon upon playing a certain number of games. When a season concludes, you are awarded with a banner frame that corresponds to your highest rank. However, the most sought-out reward for playing ranked in Paladins is the season's exclusive skin. Upon winning 75 matches in ranked, you will unlock that season's exclusive ranked skin. In Overwatch, you are rewarded with a spray for participating in competitive, and an animated version of that spray if you place in top 500. The most notable reward from Overwatch Ranked comes in the form of competitive points. You earn competitive points from winning a match, and when a season concludes, you're rewarded with a clump of competitive points depending on your rank. This nicely leads us into gold skins/weapons. In Overwatch, you can spend 3,000 competitive points to purchase a gold weapon for one hero. Once equipped, your hero's weapon will have a nice golden glow. A gold weapon can be applied to any skin in the game. Paladins also has gold weapons, but these are obtainable via that champion's level. A unique feature to Paladins is champion levels. Basically, the longer you play a champion, the higher the level. At level 30, you unlock the champion's title, but more notably, at level 50, you unlock the champion's golden skin, which comes with a golden weapon. Since the golden skin is a variant of the base model, it means the weapon is also a recolor of the base version. Compare this to Overwatch, where the gold camo can be applied to any weapon model. There is one unique quirk that's unique to the gold weapons in Paladins. When you get a kill with a gold weapon, the foe you've slayed will turn into golden dust. To wrap up this section, I wanted to talk about challenges. Both games feature a challenge hub, where by completing certain challenges you can earn rewards. Overwatch's challenges are quite simple. The reward for completing these challenges is Battle Pass XP, as well as a small amount of tokens. In Paladins, challenges are accessed via the Trials of the Realm. Each week, a new set of 3 trials will be visible to you. You could use your Trials ticket to activate a set of challenges for a specific reward. You start a patch with 2 Trials tickets, and earn them back once you complete your quests. The challenges here will often require you to play a certain champion, or do something a little differently than normal. The rewards from the trials vary a ton. You could get gold, boosters, sprays, skins, MVP poses, emotes, announcer packs, and even crystals. Next, we have the Future Updates section. Let's start with patches. Overwatch is planned to receive major updates once every 2 months. In these, you could expect to see a new Battle Pass and new skins, as well as balance updates. In Overwatch, a new hero is set to release every other season, so once every 4 months, while a new map is set to release in the patches without new heroes, so once every 2 months, the game will be getting either a new hero or a new map. Additionally, Overwatch 2 updates for its seasonal events, or to enact small balance patches if certain heroes are overperforming. Paladins currently receives an update once every 2 months. In an update, you can expect to see a new event pass, new skins, and balance updates. Paladins is a bit more unpredictable when it comes to releasing new champions. Typically, a new champion is released with every new patch, so once every 2 months, but sometimes this cycle is broken. New maps are even more unpredictable. The game is receiving its first new map in over 3 years next patch. Who knows when the next one is coming? The other notable update for Overwatch is that a story expansion will be coming in the near future. This paid DLC will feature a playable campaign where each hero has individual skill trees to delve into. The devs also confirmed that more game modes will be coming to Overwatch 2 in the future. Contrast this with Paladins, whose last game mode was added in 2019, while they continue to go back and forth on whether or not they want to bring the payload game mode back into the game. With any online FPS, there's always going to be people upset about the balance or state of the game. Luckily, both games have community members who actively communicate with the developers to discuss changes to the game. In Paladins, there's the Assembly of Champions, better known as the AOC, a team consisting of 8 members voted in by the community once a year. The AOC consists of 2 PC delegates, 1 Xbox delegate, 1 PlayStation delegate, 1 Switch delegate, and 3 general delegates. Most of these members are quite active in the community, and will directly ask for feedback with regards to the game to bring to their meetings. They also actively post about what occurred at said meetings on their social medias. Now with Overwatch, this is a little murky. Apparently, the Overwatch devs have a Discord server with Overwatch League players and high-level influencers amongst the community. In this server, they supposedly discuss balance and the future of the game. It is unknown as to what exactly goes on in these meetings, as the members involved typically don't spill any details. Last for the future updates section, I wanted to talk about story, otherwise known as lore. Overwatch has a cohesive lore that you can engage with in a variety of ways, such as animated shorts, free comics, or paid books. Paladins sometimes gets new snippets of lore when a new champion releases, either via their blurb or teaser video. There used to be some short stories about a certain event in the lore, but you can't even find that on the main Paladins website anymore. That being said, the lore in both games is quite interesting, although Overwatch's lore is better organized. I won't go into the specifics of the lore, but if you want the extremely short version, gun control, equal rights. Now we arrive at the Quirks and Nitpicks section. Let's begin with general game polish. Overwatch 2 is an extremely polished game. All the textures are consistent, maps function properly, and most heroes have a nice flow to their kit. Paladins has different textures across their skins and maps. Maps often have what's known as heavy walls, where upon touching them, your champion will lose all their momentum. And well, let's just say that Buggedins is a term amongst the community. Next, let's talk about Killcams/death recaps. In Overwatch when you die, you could watch a short replay from the perspective of the enemy who killed you. This is supposed to give you some insight on how you died. You could also use this as an opportunity to get a peek at your opponent's ult charge. In Paladins, there are no death cams, but there is the death recap. Upon your death, you could press a button to bring up the death recap. This will show you all the damage that contributed to your death, who it came from, and what specific abilities triggered it. Then there's play of the game. At the end of a match in Overwatch, you have the opportunity to watch the play of the game. This is typically the moment in which one player gets the most amount of kills in the least amount of time. Paladins used to have this feature along with Killcams, but it was removed in 2020. Now when a match ends in Paladins, you're immediately booted to the results screen. The rest of this section contains small gameplay differences, starting with one-shots. In Overwatch 2, there are a few characters who could kill you with a single shot, most notably the snipers, but a few tanks can do this as well. In Paladins, the only abilities that can one-shot come in the form of ultimates. To continue with the differences in damage, I wanted to talk about damage modifiers. In Overwatch, there's a multitude of ways to get damage boosts. The first is by landing headshots. All of the hit-scan weapons, as well as some projectiles, can headshot for double damage. In Paladins, only hit-scan weapons can headshot for a bonus 50% damage. In Overwatch, 5 out of the 8 supports offer some form of damage boosting, with the lowest percentage of damage boosted being 25%, and the highest being a 100% damage bonus. Contrast this in Paladins, where only 3 characters can offer damage boosts to their teammates. The lowest is a 10% boost, while the highest is a 30% boost via an ultimate. Additionally in Paladins, damage boosts only apply to basic weapon attacks, whereas in Overwatch, a damage boost applies to almost anything that could deal damage. To counteract all that damage, let's talk about barriers, otherwise known as shields. Overwatch has had a history of poorly balancing shields. Due to that, the philosophy surrounding barriers has drastically changed going into Overwatch 2. As previously mentioned, there is only one tank per team. Due to that, you're only going to be seeing one prevalent barrier at most. 2 out of the 3 barriers in Overwatch can be placed and withdrawn at will, while the last has a time limit. Less than half of the tank roster have access to a barrier, meaning that more often than not, you're going to have to rely on movement and natural cover to avoid damage. Contrast this with Paladins, where more than half of the front lines have a barrier. This means that on top of using natural cover, you could quite often take advantage of a friendly shield to avoid fire as well. The prevalence of barriers does come at a cost though, as it's quite easy to outplay them. Most barriers in Paladins have a time limit, and this is usually accompanied by a long cooldown. Additionally, most barriers are static in Paladins, meaning that they could be outmaneuvered. On top of that, the enemy can shred your barriers with ease via the Wrecker item in the shop. This item grants the user with bonus damage against barriers. Typically in Paladins, a barrier's strength will decrease the longer a match goes on, so eventually you will be relying on natural cover, just like in Overwatch. Next, I wanted to talk about hitboxes. Overwatch has near accurate model to hitbox ratios, whereas Paladins offers cylinder hitboxes. Because of this, it's generally easier to hit shots in Paladins when compared to Overwatch. Next is mounts, exclusive to Paladins. In Paladins, upon spawning, you will be placed on your mount. The mount moves much faster than a normal champion, allowing you to return to the fight very quickly. Overwatch does not have mounts, so you're gonna have to walk your way back to a fight. Last of the little quirks is another Paladins exclusive. Well, kinda. Out of combat healing. In Paladins, if a champion doesn't take or deal damage for 5 seconds, they will enter the out of combat state. During this state, the champion heals 300 health, plus 4% of their base health every second, until they reach full health. In Overwatch, only the supports have access to out of combat healing, where they start regenerating 15 health a second when they haven't taken damage for 1.5 seconds. Before we wrap up this section, I wanted to bring up a few little details that I almost forgot about. Overwatch has a ping system, where by hitting middle mouse on PC, you can perform various callouts, ranging from pointing out enemies to telling your team to group up. In Paladins, there is no ping system, but there is the VGS, which serves the same purpose. Through a variety of button commands, you can do essentially the same callouts as Overwatch. Next is damage and healing numbers. Paladins has them, Overwatch does not. Mid-air inaccuracy is another feature exclusive to Paladins. Basically, most hit-scan weapons will lose accuracy while you're in the air. Last of the little Paladins exclusives is the ability to buy event pass levels with the free currency gold. You still have to purchase the pass with crystals, but you now have the option to roll through your pass quickly if you have some gold lying around. Now for an exclusive to Overwatch, While You Wait. This allows you to continue playing the game while waiting in queue. You could go to the firing range, go to a skirmish or deathmatch, or join a custom game. Paladins does not have a feature like this, so you're going to be stuck staring at the menu until you're matched. To wrap up this quick extra section, I wanted to talk about how both games handle levers. In Paladins, the player who left is replaced by a bot of their champion. The bots in Paladins are not very skillful, and will often feed themselves to the enemy. In Overwatch Quick Play, if a player leaves, they will most likely get replaced by another player via the backfill system. In Ranked, however, there is no backfill, so if your teammate leaves and never returns, you're going to be down a player for the whole match. Our last section to cover is advanced gameplay, as this is where the major differences between both games lie. Let's begin with custom games, which Paladins and Overwatch 2 offer. In Paladins, you can make a custom game of any of the 4 main game modes on any of the maps available in-game, including a few test maps. Up to 10 players can join a custom game, and you can use bots to fill the empty spaces if you wish. Additionally, up to 2 spectators can join the game as well. The player in charge can change the server region of the match, as well as change the draft type to be based on the normal casual version, or the ranked version with picks and bans. There are also a few advanced settings to make your custom games more unique. As of right now, this includes disabling the item store, disabling loadouts, disabling out-of-combat health regen, changing the starting credits in a round, lowering ultimate charge rates and cooldowns, changing basic attack damage, changing movement speed, changing jump height, and changing gravity. Also, once in a custom match, players can pause the game for everyone if needed. In Overwatch 2, the basics of custom games are nearly identical to that of Paladins. You could pick any game mode to play with any map, people can spectate, you can play spots to fill the spaces, and you also have access to some wacky advanced settings just like Paladins. What's unique to Overwatch is that you could disable certain heroes from being picked entirely, and all the wacky character modifiers can be changed per hero. So for example, if you wanted only Reinhardt to be super fast while the other heroes have normal walking speed, you could do that. However, the biggest difference with Overwatch's custom games comes in the form of the Overwatch Workshop. If you are proficient at coding, you can essentially make your own mini-game within Overwatch to play and share with others. Talented coders have used the workshop in a plethora of amazing ways, from testing out character reworks to improving the firing range, to making aim trainers, hide and seek, tower defense, Thomas the Tank Nightmare Simulator, and so much more. One last point about customs. In Overwatch, when a custom game concludes, all players are brought back to the custom game lobby, making it easy for the leader to start the game up once more. In Paladins, when a custom is concluded, everyone is booted to the main menu and the leader has to remake the custom match from scratch. I was a little unsure as to where to place this section, but another exclusive to Overwatch is esports, specifically titled the Overwatch League. This is where the best players in the world play for cash prizes. You are able to view the Overwatch League digitally on YouTube and Twitch, or you could purchase a ticket to view an event in person. The Overwatch League esports scene is exactly like a real-world sport, featuring sponsors, casters, replays, excited crowds, and more. Paladins discontinued their Pro Circuit esports scene in 2021. These next 3 sections will showcase gameplay features exclusive to Paladins. The first is Loadouts and Talents. In Overwatch, outside of a few quality of life settings, there is no way to modify your hero. What you see is what you're going to get until the balance team decides to step in. This is the complete opposite in Paladins. In Paladins, all 57 champions have access to one of 3 talents. In the best scenarios, each of the talents will drastically change the champion's main playstyle, while in the worst cases, a talent will be a slight nudge up to a certain aspect of that champion. To show an example of talents done right, let's have a peek at the Flanker Skye. The first talent, Debilitate, allows for poison bolts to deal more damage. The second talent, Smoke and Dagger, allows Skye to heal her teammates and play almost like a support, while the third talent, Preparation, gives Skye access to better mobility and damage reduction. To accompany talents are Loadouts. Loadouts are decks of cards that players can select before entering a match. These cards all offer little benefits to your champion. There's cards to reduce cooldowns, cards to boost movement speed, cards for extra health or damage reduction, cards to give you bonuses when you get kills, etc, etc. On top of the pre-made loadouts, Paladins players can create their own for each champion. When you create your own loadout, you're tasked with choosing 5 out of 20 cards, and then placing 15 loadout points amongst those cards. Each card costs 1 point, but you can upgrade your cards from level 1 to 5 to boost their effect. With your loadout points, you can either level your cards evenly, or place most of your power into a select few cards. Because of the talented loadout system, Paladins champions are very multi-dimensional when compared to the static roles that each Overwatch hero is defined by. Even if you find yourself fighting the same champions, there's a high possibility that they will be using varying talents or loadouts. Continuing with an exclusive feature to Paladins, next is the item store. Upon entering a match, all champions are spawned with some credits. Players can earn more credits as a match progresses. While in the spawn room or waiting to respawn, players can spend these credits in the in-game item store for a variety of items. There are 16 different items, all with different effects. Each item can be leveled up 2 additional times, in which case the effect becomes more prominent. In Overwatch, the way to counter an enemy is to switch to a hero that can shut down what's giving you problems. In Paladins, the item store is predominantly the way to counter your opponents. If you find yourself getting lit up before you can even react, buy some Haven to increase your champion's damage reduction. Does the enemy have a lot of overwhelming stuns or crowd control? Buy some Resilience to weaken their effects. Are the enemies constantly shoving shields in your face? Buy some Wrecker and melt those shields with ease. On top of items to help counter the enemy, you also have a handful of items to buff your champions themselves. Through the item store, you can grant your champion with a faster ultimate charge rate, faster cooldowns, lifesteal, and more. Speaking of healing, let's talk about the last striking difference between Overwatch and Paladins: Antihealing. Antihealing, often referred to as cauterized by veteran players, is a crucial factor to the way Paladins is played and balanced. It works like this. Damage from weapon shots, aka primary fires, reduces the healing an enemy can receive for 1.5 seconds. The base healing reduction is 25%, and this will eventually scale all the way up to a 90% healing reduction as the game progresses. Because of this, supports and self-sustaining champions / loadouts will lose a lot of power throughout a match. Because of the anti-healing mechanic, blindly heal-botting a team will lose a lot of value as a match goes on. Learning how and when to take cover is arguably the most important skill to have in Paladins, so your support can heal you out of cauterize. Overwatch does not have an overlooming anti-healing effect. There is anti-healing in the game, but it comes in the form of 2 abilities, one being Ana's Biotic Grenade and the second being Junker Queen's Rampage Ultimate. Both of these skills deny all healing received to enemies damaged for a short time. If the enemy doesn't have these heroes, you're free to receive full healing whenever and wherever. And that's where I'm going to leave this video. Please let me know if I missed anything that you believe should have been mentioned. I would also like to know, which game do you prefer? Overwatch 2 or Paladins? Don't forget to clap that like button and laser down that sub button. Snatching the bell is also a great way to keep in the loop. As always, I'm YellowNinja, and peace.